Welcome back, everyone, to the Built for Anything audio experience. I'm your host, your favorite vegan go getter, Hertz. And in today's episode, we're going to be talking about steroids and the impact it has on the fitness industry, sports, society. And also, I'm going to be talking to you guys about why you need to know that you are good enough. Stay tuned and I'll explain why. Thank you for listening. So I remember growing up, as a kid, I used to love wrestling. Now, this is back when it was the WWF. Now it's the WWE, and it's a bit more watered down. But I remember growing up and watching people like Hulk Hogan, Macho Man Randy Savage, Ultimate Warrior. These guys were like larger than life to me. You know, I used to see these athletes jumping around, flipping over each other, body slams. And, you know, as a kid, you couldn't tell me that it was fake. And as I got older, I still watched wrestling, and guys like Triple H, Randy Orton, the physiques that these guys carried in wrestling, it was just like growing up, that's what you wanted to be. And so I remember when I first started to work out, I must have been maybe 13, 14. I remember my father got me a gym membership, and I used to go in there, work out all the time. And I was so excited to be able to lift weights because to me, I wanted to look like those guys. And so I would hit the gym really, really hard. And obviously, as you go through puberty and you start to mature, you start to kind of develop more. I started to receive attention, and it was addictive. And so fast forward, as an adult, I would follow magazines like Muscle and Fitness, and a lot of other men's health magazines that always displayed some bodybuilder or someone just physically fit on the cover. And it would always have like these big titles: get abs in 6 weeks, build a bigger chest, have bigger arms. And when I tell you, I subscribed to all of them, and I used to have stacks and stacks of these magazines in my room. And I would just read up on what to eat, what exercises to do. And for me, those were like the Bible. And then as I got older, right, and I keep saying that because it just goes to show you how long this actually started for me. I started very, very young. And now, at 33 years old, I look back at it and I say, damn, they got me. And by they, I mean the industry, the people who advertise. Because it's not by accident that they have certain titles on the front of their magazines. They have certain bodybuilders, and these bodybuilders always had beautiful women on their arm. And so it was something that you wanted to build towards. You felt like you needed to look like those guys. And now, when I look at it, I realized a lot. I remember when I used to work at a gym, right? This was, I think it was New York Sports Club. And I worked there for a summer, and it was a great experience because I got to work out for free and make money. I mean, that was a sweet deal. But this was the first time that I was able to be around bodybuilders or guys that wanted to be bodybuilders and see what they go through. And so I never forget, I remember there was a trainer. Now, I was a membership consultant. So I was the guy that would try to sign people up for memberships. Now, he was a trainer and he was a big guy. And I remember one time we worked out together, and afterwards he was like, he was going to go get some supplements. At this time, I was buying up all kinds of supplements. And so I followed him because obviously he's a big guy, he's muscular. So I figured whatever he's doing is the right thing. And I'll never forget, he took me to like this hole in the wall place. I mean, this wasn't GNC or Vitamin Shop, nothing well known, just one of these hole in the walls. And some of the prescriptions and some of the supplements they had there, I have never seen at some of the larger retail places. And I remember when we left, the guy told me that, that's who he goes to get his stuff, basically his gear, or just, I don't want to say steroids specifically, but let's just say some of the stuff that are borderline steroids that you normally can't find over the shelf. And so right then and there, it kind of clicked to me that there was more to what's going on than just working out. Now, I watch the UFC, and I'm sure you guys are well aware. There's a fighter called John Jones. They call him John Bones Jones, and he was actually tested positive for steroid use, and this is his second time. And I wasn't surprised. Not surprised at all. Because the reality is that steroids, performance enhancement drugs, are part of the game. It's a big part of the fitness industry. It's a big part of sports. There's even a documentary that I encourage you guys to go check it out. It's called Icarus. Now I'm going to spell it out because I might be pronouncing it wrong. It's Icarus. And it's on Netflix. That was like a great documentary. Let me explain what it's about real quickly. It's a guy who's a cyclist who he watched Lance Armstrong. And for those of you who don't know who Lance Armstrong is, a very popular cyclist, won a lot of Tour de France's, and basically he was doping the entire time. But they never could really catch him. He never failed the drug test. But later on he admitted it because basically his friends turned on him. But this is a guy that was winning like 5-6 straight years in some of the toughest courses. And so this guy wanted to do an experiment. And he said he wanted to see if he could mirror and mimic the steroid use of these athletes to see if his performance would dramatically increase. So he's purposely taking these steroids for himself. Now, this is a guy, he doesn't make a living off of cycling. He's basically way over the hill, but he competes in different contests, different tournaments that do consist of guys that could be in the Tour de France, but not really. And so he wanted to do this experiment and see if he could basically beat them or even be in their class. And I found it interesting that he actually went about it by connecting himself with a doctor who referred him to another doctor in Russia who helped out a lot of athletes take performance enhancement drugs and also not get caught. And what's good about this documentary is that it started off this way, but then it ended up being a huge big thing when it came to Russia and exposing them for what they do with their athletes. And so I definitely encourage you to watch it. I don't want to give it away too much. I mean, it's a documentary, but it really opens up your eyes to understand the full extent of what countries or organizations, athletes will go through just to be at the top of their level in whatever sport that they're in. And see, I always tie sports into politics because I do feel like they're connected. I feel like sports is used as somewhat of a distraction, and it can also be used to motivate people to, I guess, turn a blind eye to certain politicians. Because when you watch this documentary, Vladimir Putin, who is the president of Russia, he was basically, what this documentary is alluding to is that he was instrumental in allowing these organizations to do what they need to do. Because with Russia winning at the Olympics, it gets the people of Russia so excited that they will go along with anything that he would want to do. So if he decided to invade a country, or his popularity basically grew because of the success that the Russian teams were doing in the Olympics. So basically he used the fact that they were successful in sports and the fact that people have such a connection with their teams, their home teams, and their patriotism. They bought into his philosophies and what it is that he wanted to do personally. So it's definitely an interesting documentary. Now, back to sports. So John Jones, he got caught for a second time. Of course, he denies it. And I don't think anybody's really buying his story. But even with Lance Armstrong, when you look at the fact that he was able to do this for such a long time, he didn't do it on his own. He had to have people who were invested in him and protected him. And it wasn't until those people were facing greater charges that they ended up turning on him. So a lot of these athletes and these guys, they're not doing this on their own. But here's the problem. You see these athletes, even actors, who, they manipulate their weight. 1 minute they look ripped. Next minute they look, super skinny, or they had to gain 20, 30 pounds for a role. It's very hard to put your body through things like that. And so they need to be able to take certain drugs in order to assist their body with that. And so you may be asking yourself, like, why would anybody want to take steroids or things that could potentially harm your body? Because there is a direct connection with steroids and deaths with a lot of people that do take steroids. There's roid rage. People have liver problems, heart problems. I mean, these are things that are well documented. And that's why, if you notice, a lot of these bodybuilders, once their career is done, first of all, they have a short lifespan. But usually once their careers are done, they shrink. They're not nearly as big as they used to be because it's not sustainable on their body at all. One big example is Arnold Schwarzenegger. He's one of the best, fitness models, fitness competitors. He won Mr. Olympias. I mean, he's a legend in that sport. But if you look at him now, he's not nearly as big. And I mean, the list goes on. There's a lot of people. There's Ronnie Coleman, Jay Cutler, and I actually met Jay Cutler in New York one time. And I was kind of surprised, these guys off peak, when they're not competing, they're not nearly as big. And when their careers are done, they shrink. So for them to take these steroids, what they're ultimately thinking is, if I'm going to do this for 4 or 5 years of my life or longer, the amount of money that I'm able to generate through endorsements, right? Hopefully I can live out the rest of my life, financially stable. But understand what you're risking, your health. Because these people die. They have terrible heart problems. They have strokes. You have guys like Rich Piana, who said that he takes steroids. He doesn't hide it. He also mentions a lot of people in the fitness industry does, even though they don't admit to it. But this is a guy right now who has an enlarged heart. And right now he's in a coma. So when I look at somebody like John Jones, of course he's going to take it. When you're competing and you're in these type of sports, people have to understand your body could take but so much punishment over the years. And it's one thing to push your body, but there's what your body's capable of, and then there's what it's not capable of. And so don't get me wrong. I want to make something clear though. I'm not advocating that people who take steroids, like you just take steroids and then all of a sudden you're just in shape and that's it. You do have to work out. You do have to be committed. You do have to have a diet that you can stick to. It's not the fast way, but it is a big boost. So when you hear performance enhancement drugs, there got to be something there to enhance. And so even when everybody's taking performance enhancement drugs, there's still going to be that one person who's above everyone. Do I think Lance Armstrong was the only person who was taking, who's on performance enhancement drugs during that time? No. He just happened to be the person who was the most skilled and was able to capitalize on it. I'll even bring up baseball. You look at Barry Bonds, Mark McGwire, Sosa. These are people who, I'm going to say allegedly, are people who take performance enhancement drugs or took performance enhancement drugs. They have statistics that are just off the chart. But at the same time, if everybody was doing it, why isn't everybody breaking records like those guys? The reality is, even when you look at before they took the performance enhancement drugs, these guys were still pretty relevant. Alex Rodriguez is another one. These guys have talent. So I do believe that you have to have the talent and you do have to have the skills. Okay? And then when you take these steroids, it allows you to be able to train consistently because the body needs time to recover. So when you think of these routines that these guys do, you need a lot of sleep. You need to have a really, really great diet. But again, the wear and tear, it happens to everyone. And so to avoid that, they take these drugs. And again, I'll even talk about basketball. Same thing. You got to understand that every steroid isn't just designed to make you big. Some can help you with recovery, speed. And if you're playing a sport where you have to play back to back, being able to take these performance enhancement drugs can dramatically help you prolong your career. Now, there are side effects to everything. And we're starting to see that now because guys are starting to break down a lot faster. Because people are bigger, people are faster, the demand is higher. And so because more people are doing it now in these sports to try to keep up with each other, more and more people are getting hurt. And so when you look at the fitness industry, my biggest issue is this. I grew up looking at a false pretense, and that false pretense is still out there today. The reality is, when you look at these athletes on the front of these magazine covers, they're not going to tell you that they're taking steroids. They're going to say, hey, I'm taking this particular supplement, you're thinking, oh, okay, I need to just take that supplement and that's going to help me look like that person. I'm going to get abs like him. I'm going to get a chest like him. I'm going to get arms like him. And what happens is you slowly start to realize that it's not the case. And then what happens? Then somebody's endorsing a different supplement. And they're saying that supplement's better than this supplement. I remember when I used to go to GNC or Vitamin Shop to get supplements, and it seemed like every other time I went, there was a new supplement that was supposedly better, more expensive. Before I knew it, I had a stacked shelf full of protein powders and all kinds of supplements to help you burn fat, help you, work out longer. I mean, look, at the end of the day, they use these models to advertise these products because they know that if they have these models advertising these products, you're going to look at that model and it's going to add more validity to that product. But at the end of the day, half of these people, or even most of these people, they don't take these supplements. Or if they are taking them, it's in addition to what they're really taking, which is usually some form of performance enhancement drugs. That's the reality. Now, all of us don't have access to steroids, and most of us probably wouldn't really do it considering the health risks. So they have to come up with a product that makes you think, okay, this must be safe because they're selling it to the open market. Although when you look at these supplements, they're quick to say that they're not FDA approved. And so we fall victim to this perception of how we're supposed to look physically, and we start chasing that down, and we don't realize that we're not going to catch up. You're just not. Because those people are not disclosing what they're truly doing. And the result of this is that there's a lot of deaths, especially in young people. And that's what's really sad. Because people like myself growing up now, they're looking at these athletes and they're saying, I have to look like them. And now that they're finding out more and more that, you know what? These people are taking these performance enhancement drugs because they're beating me and getting the jobs that I want. So imagine this. You're somebody who gets up, works out consistently, have a consistent diet, and maybe you want to be a model or someone who just advertises for certain brands, looking for a sponsorship. But you keep getting beat by the guy who is bigger than you, has more cuts, better abs, and you're saying to yourself, well, how is it that he's beating me? I'm putting in the effort. And then you find out that this person is taking some sort of steroids. What are you going to feel like? Now, you're either going to say, you know what? I'm going to walk away from this field because, I'm not going to take the steroids. Or you're going to say, you know what? I'm going to take the steroids because I need to look better than this person in order to get this job. I'm going to take this steroid because I want to be able to perform better at this sport than this guy. You got football players that are taking steroids. Because again, when it comes to money, a lot of people are willing to do the unthinkable. They're willing to sacrifice their lives, their bodies, their health for money, for what it is that it could bring them. Money equals attention. A lot of attention in the eyes of people means success. And so people are willing to sacrifice their health in the process. And that's why you see with women, they look at a lot of young girls, they're looking at people like Kylie Jenner, Kim Kardashian, and a number of other people. And they're saying, I need to look like that person. Because when they're growing up and they look at their dolls and all their Barbie dolls are slim, long hair, that's why you see a lot of women now, they want to have weaves, they want to get their nose done, cheeks done, Botox, butt done. And the thing is, they're going through the extreme to do this, and a lot of them are dying. Because at the end of the day, if you don't have the same resources as these people who you're looking at, you're going to try to do it the underground way. Kylie Jenner can afford to go get her lips done. She can afford to get plastic surgery, breast implants, butt implants. And in turn, by her doing that, she's able to model, get endorsements, be more attractive to people so she can have a show. So it's generating money for her. Again, she's putting her health at risk. But the people who are looking up to her now, what do? They don't have the same money as Kylie, Kim. They're going to go to countries, try to get the Brazilian butts. They're going to go to Jamaica and try to get plastic surgery for cheap. And, they do this for attention. And I can't just blame the women. I also got to blame, society. I got to blame the guys. Because if we consistently show that we're attracted to these type of women, it sets the stage of what it is that they feel they have to do to get our attention. And vice versa. Women are going to be very attracted to, these guys that are, big and bulky, or these successful athletes. And if that's where all the money and everything is going, people are willing to take that risk. So can I truly blame an athlete for taking these performance enhancement drugs? I can't judge them. I just think it's misleading for the people that are watching them who are not taking the steroids and think that they can achieve the same level of success, because it's not an even playing field. And so I do think sports should be fair. I don't think you should be taking it, but I understand why. Because until you tell me that when an athlete gets caught that they have to give back money, then why wouldn't they do it? Why wouldn't they do it? For a lot of them, their reputation doesn't mean as much, especially when they're no longer playing. Because once the money's in the bank account and they've reached the success, listen, you can't take that away. They take Marion Jones medals away. Listen, she still got them. She still won them. You can't erase that. The people who competed against her did not win. So, hey, nobody's saying give back the endorsement money. And so that's why a lot of these athletes take it. And I'm always kind of surprised when I'm having conversations with friends or people and I mention that, look at this particular person. You don't think that they're on something? And they're like, no way. Where's the proof? I'm just like, come on, man. Where's the proof? The proof is in front of your eyes. Because at the end of the day, you're not going to really find, especially with today's environment, there's so much that are invested in these athletes that it wouldn't surprise me that the very organization that they work for know what they're doing, but they make so much money on them. And by them getting caught, it hurts their particular brand that they protect those people. So if the very people that's supposed to be policing this are involved, then no, you're not going to get that proof. Because it's a dangerous game. And what you'll see in the documentary that I mentioned is that people's lives at stake. And so, no, you may not get that headline that says this particular person is taking steroids. But when you look at somebody and you see, they're aging, they're playing at a certain level, the signs are usually there. I'll leave it at that. The signs are usually there. Especially in a sport where it's just very physical. You really got to pay attention when somebody just takes a dramatic jump and is sustaining that over a long period of time. Because usually there's some sort of a drop off. And when there's not, you really do got to consider what's really happening behind the scenes. And so what I encourage people growing up, especially if you're listening to this, you have to be willing to accept who you are. You have to understand that there's limitations and know what those limitations are. There's nothing wrong with pushing your body to the limit, but you don't want to compromise yourself, especially for the admiration of people who shouldn't really matter in the first place. So a lot of us go through the extreme. You got people who starve themselves to try to look skinny. You got people who are, eating ridiculous types of diets just to get bigger. They're willing to do these plastic surgeries, take these drugs, these prescription drugs. You got to understand that you have to accept yourself. Okay, you got to love yourself first. And I know society paints this picture of what's attractive and what's not attractive. But let me tell you something. If you are who you are and comfortable in your own skin, your responsibility is to be the best version of yourself. But you got to work from the inside out. See, a lot of times people work on the outside. They don't do any maintenance on the inside. And what I mean by the inside is, I mean both spiritually and just also the inside, meaning, eat well, exercise, take care of your body. Your body has to be able to, it needs rest. It has to be able to function. Drink lots of water, things like that. Educate your mind. Do yoga, meditate, things like that. Things that are meant to help you spiritually. Because if you're good on the inside, it's going to show on the outside. What happens is people try to cover up so much on the outside and they're dying on the inside. There's so much money that goes into taking care of the outside and not the inside. And I'm not going to sit here and say that the only determination on whether you're healthy or not is if you're skinny or fat, because that's not true. There are plenty of people that I've come across who are skinny, but probably have more health problems than somebody who's obese. At the end of the day, your body functions the same way. And if you abuse your body, some people may have a longer time that they're able to abuse their body before, bad things start to happen. But there will be a price to pay. I mean, that's unavoidable. There will be a price to pay. And I don't think people really understand that price could come a hell of a lot sooner than it needs to be. They talk about what is it that you need to do to lose weight, be in shape. And people try to complicate it. There's a lot of fad diets out there. When everybody knows what they need to do. Eat right, exercise, sleep, do it all over again. Right? You know, it's out there, but yet we want to complicate it. We want the fast track. We want the magic pill. And that's why it forces us to look at these people who are not doing it the right way. But then we get discouraged too. So you're that kid who watches what he eats, he's running, he's working out, but he just can't get his physique to look like that guy. You can't get your physique to look like that woman. And so you start thinking to yourself, you know what? I'm not doing it right. Maybe I need to do something else. Maybe I need to take this pill, this drug. And that's what the problem is. Everybody moves at their own pace. You don't need to look at yourself like you're missing something. If you're on the right track, stay on that track. Give it time. We all want to look good, but what I tell you is be healthy. You know, work from the inside out. But don't try to cover up insecurities by, you know, working out and just getting bigger. Because that's why you see a lot of people, and they call it like body dysmorphia, is that they constantly see flaws in themselves, even when it's not there. That's why you see some people, you know, they're working out, they're big, but in their eyes, they're looking at themselves like they're small. And they just keep hurting themselves. And then it happens also in the reverse. You got people who want to be skinny, and even when they're really skinny, they look in the mirror and they see themselves as fat. So there's a mental issue. And I really feel like the advertisements and what society has portrayed as what's attractive, what's healthy, forces people to have these issues mentally. Because you start thinking, I'm not good enough. I'm telling you, you are good enough. I'm telling you that if you love yourself, eat right, exercise, work on your own personal development, you are not only attractive, but you are far ahead many, many people. Okay, because why you think you hear about a lot of celebrities that are miserable, unhappy? People who have all the money in the world could do whatever they want or committing suicide. People who you look at and they say they are so beautiful, been married 3-4 times. Man, I remember watching Baywatch, Pamela Lee. I found out the other day she was married like 3-4 times. Halle Berry, several marriages. And I don't know him personally. I'm just saying. We put these idols, we put these people on such a pedestal. You don't realize that they're just as flawed as any one of us. They just have more money. And money doesn't cure everything. You know, so I say we got to be careful with what information we choose to subscribe to, because it could be very, very misleading. I'll tell you one more story. I spoke about a documentary, a very popular documentary on Netflix right now called What the Health. And a lot of people are watching that documentary and are going vegan or plant-based as a result of it, because the information is really connecting with people. But I remember seeing something on social media, because there's always going to be two sides. There's going to be people who try to debunk it and denounce it. And I remember seeing somebody, you know, post it and say that they didn't believe the information or want to believe the information because the doctors looked skinny. They didn't look like who it is that they aspire to be. And I couldn't really wrap my head around it, because I'm saying to myself, you're telling me that a doctor, in your eyes, in order for what they say to be valid, they need to look ripped. They need to, look like bodybuilders. But you know what? It made sense after a while. It made sense that we tend to take the advice of the people who look the way we would like to look over the people that don't, even if the information is wrong. And it reminded me of what I'm telling you guys in the very beginning. Growing up, watching those magazines, reading those magazines, I should say, watching wrestling, I would believe anything those guys said in terms of getting fit because they looked very fit. It just goes to show you how much we care more about what's going on the outside than what's going on the inside. No, you shouldn't expect your doctor to be ripped or bulky. You expect your doctor to be in good health, because if someone's going to help you with your health, you would expect that they would take care of themselves as well. But somebody who's slim or lean is no more right or wrong than somebody who's bulky. And so it just had me really thinking about why we choose to listen to people who look that way without trying to find out the right information for ourselves. Because those same people that you're looking up to, those athletes, most of them, those bodybuilders, they're taking steroids. They're doing other things that they're not advertising to you. And so even when you go on like Instagram and you see these models or these IG models, they're advertising like fit tea. And I laugh. But at the same time, it's sad because I'm saying to myself, you know what? The reason why they're advertising this, first of all, they're getting money from these advertisers. Okay, so don't think they're doing it for free. But if you have 1 million people following you, and even if 1,000 people, 100 people look at that and say, you know what? I want a slim waist like her. So I'm going to go out and I'm going to purchase this fit tee. Not knowing that that same model goes and they're getting lipo surgery, they're getting work done. They're not telling you that. They're telling you, oh, I drank this tea after every meal. They're telling you, get this teeth whitening solution. When they just go to a doctor and they get veneers in and, they have the money to do so, they're not telling you that. They're not telling you that they went to go get their butt done. They're telling you, oh, take a look at my fitness tips. Buy my ebook. And people are falling for it. It's one of the biggest and oldest scams running. The fact that you can use the image, the perception of what you've been conditioned to like in order to sell you a bunch of other stuff that you don't need. And that's the reason why advertisers target athletes and models, these corporations, because they know you're going to look at them and you're going to want to be like them and you're going to buy into the product. I challenge you, buy into what's real. Stay committed to your goals. Understand who you are. Understand that everybody doesn't have to like you. You don't have to look like the big bodybuilder. Focus on your health and do your own research. Do your own research, because perception isn't always reality. Okay? And so I'm going to leave it here. Thank you guys for listening. I really do appreciate it. If you're not subscribed, definitely subscribe. You can find my podcast, the Built for Anything podcast. You can find it on Podbean, iTunes, Google Play Store. All right. Also, you can find me on YouTube, Built for Anything, and that's BUILT, the number 4, anything, ANYTHING. It was a pleasure to talk to you guys. I'll catch you on the next podcast.